My Neighbor is a Serial Killer, based on a true story. The moment I realized my neighbor was a serial killer, I was elbow deep in mint chocolate chip ice cream, watching a true crime documentary. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'm Zoe Parker, 29, social media manager for an eco-friendly clothing brand, true crime podcast addict, and as of 3 weeks ago, resident of the historic Westlake Apartments in Portland. By historic, I mean the building has character. Or that's what my realtor called perpetually flickering hallway lights and floors that creak when you breathe. But the rent was reasonable. The location was walking distance to my favorite coffee shops. And my neighbors seemed normal. Well, most of them. Except 4B. Elliott Cooper. The first time I saw Elliott, he was helping an elderly woman carry groceries up the stairs. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark-rimmed glasses and a haircut straight out of a J.Crew catalog. The kind of guy who looks like he has a LinkedIn premium account and makes his own sourdough. Too perfect. Too helpful. And definitely suspicious. You're being ridiculous, my best friend Maya told me over brunch that weekend. Not every quiet, polite man is a secret psychopath. But they're the ones you least suspect. I insisted, stabbing my avocado toast for emphasis. Ted Bundy was charming too. Maya rolled her eyes. So now your hot neighbor is Ted Bundy because he checks notes, helped Mrs. Rodriguez with her groceries? And he wears boat shoes, I added. In Portland. Who does that? A mass murderer clearly, Maya deadpanned. Case closed. I let it drop, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Maybe I had been listening to too many true crime podcasts. Maybe I was just being paranoid after moving to a new city alone. Then came the package incident. I was working from home, wrestling with a particularly soul-crushing spreadsheet, when a delivery notification pinged on my phone. By the time I made it downstairs, the delivery person was gone, but there was a box for 4B sitting in the lobby. Now, I'm not proud of what happened next, but in my defense, the box was leaking. Just a small dark stain seeping through one corner. It could have been anything: soy sauce, coffee, balsamic vinegar, or blood. I nudged the box with my foot, heavier than it looked. The label said it was from Hunter Supply Company. Another red flag. What kind of supplies would a hunter need in downtown Portland? As I debated my moral dilemma, the front door swung open. Elliott walked in, wearing running clothes and wireless earbuds. He stopped when he saw me standing over his package. "Oh hey," he said, pulling out his earbuds. "Is that for me?" I tried to look casual, like I hadn't been contemplating breaking federal law by tampering with his mail. "Yeah, just got delivered. It's leaking something." A flash of, was that panic, crossed his face before he smiled. "Thanks for keeping an eye on it. Had a bad experience with package thieves at my last place." He picked up the box, and I noticed his hand positioning carefully avoided the wet corner. "What's Hunter's Supply Company?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. Elliott paused. "It's a specialty meat delivery service. Farm-to-table stuff." He held up the box. "Probably some defrosted venison leaking." "Oh, cool." I nodded like this was a perfectly normal explanation. "I'm Zoe, by the way. 2A. Elliott. 4B. He balanced the box in one arm to offer a handshake. "Nice to officially meet you." His hand was cold from being outside. Or from handling dead bodies. One of those. "Well, better get this in the freezer," he said, gesturing with the box. "See you around." I watched him climb the stairs, waiting until he was out of sight before pulling out my phone to Google Hunter's Supply Company. It was indeed a specialty meat delivery service, specializing in game meats. Their website featured happy hipster couples cooking elk steaks. I felt simultaneously relieved and disappointed. That night, I decided to be a normal, sane person and watch a lighthearted comedy instead of my usual true crime fare. I made it 15 minutes into Schitt's Creek before switching to Making a Murderer Season 2. Around midnight, as I was finally drifting off to sleep, I heard it, a rhythmic thudding from above. From 4B. At first, I thought Elliott might have company of the intimate variety. Good for him. But the sound wasn't right for that. Too regular, too mechanical. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice memo app, recording the sound. Thud, thud, thud. Pause. Thud, thud, thud. It continued for exactly 17 minutes before stopping abruptly. I know because I checked the timestamp on my recording, which I immediately sent to Maya with the message, "Serial killer evidence." She replied with a single emoji, face with rolling eyes. The next morning, I ran into Elliott in the laundry room. He was folding what appeared to be plain white t-shirts. A lot of them. "Morning," he said cheerfully. "How's 2A treating you?" "Fine," I replied, eyeing his laundry. "That's a lot of white shirts." He looked down as if surprised by his own clothing. "Oh yeah, I work in a restaurant. Side gig. They require white shirts." "What restaurant?" I asked, mentally preparing to fact-check this later. "Little place in the Pearl District. Knife and fork." He finished folding his suspiciously numerous white shirts. "You should come by sometime. I can get you a good table." "Maybe," I said noncommittally. "What were you doing last night around midnight?" The question came out more accusatory than I intended. Elliott's eyebrows shot up. "Sorry," I backpedaled. "There was some noise coming from upstairs. Just wondering what it was." "Oh," his face relaxed. "My treadmill. I work late sometimes, so I run indoors when I get home. Does it bother you? I can put down more mats." A plausible explanation. Too plausible. "It's fine," I said. "Just curious." As soon as he left, I Googled knife and fork Portland. It existed. Elliott's story checked out. Again, maybe Maya was right. Maybe I was letting my true crime obsession cloud my judgment. Elliott seemed like a normal guy with normal explanations for everything. That afternoon, my neighbor across the hall, a retired teacher named Carol, knocked on my door. "Welcome gift," she announced, handing me a plate of chocolate chip cookies. "Homemade this morning." I invited her in for coffee, eager for some normal human interaction that didn't involve me suspecting anyone of murder. "How are you settling in?" Carol asked, stirring cream into her coffee. "Pretty well. Still getting to know the building. Such a nice place. Lived here 15 years myself." She took a sip of coffee. "Have you met many neighbors yet?" "Just Elliott upstairs and now you," I said, trying to sound casual. "What's his deal anyway?" Carol's eyebrows lifted. "Elliott? Such a nice young man. Helps everyone with their packages and heavy lifting." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "And not hard on the eyes, if you don't mind me saying." "He seems too perfect," I admitted. "Like suspiciously nice." Carol laughed. "Oh honey, in this world take the nice ones at face value. They're rare enough." She left after finishing her coffee, leaving me feeling slightly ashamed of my suspicions. That lasted approximately 4 hours. Because at 8:17 p.m., while taking out my trash, I saw Elliott loading something into the trunk of his car. Something wrapped in heavy-duty plastic sheeting. My heart nearly exploded. I ducked behind a car, watching as he carefully arranged the plastic-wrapped bundle, then covered it with a blanket. He closed the trunk, looked around the parking lot. I barely avoided being spotted. Then got in his car and drove away. I sprinted back upstairs, grabbed my keys and pepper spray, and ran to my own car. This was it. Real evidence. I just needed to follow him, see where he dumped the body, then call the police. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my car outside a nondescript building in an industrial area, watching Elliott carry his suspicious package inside. The sign on the building read Portland Makerspace. I Googled it. A community workshop where people could use industrial equipment to build projects, which could be legitimate, or the perfect place to dismember a body with power tools while claiming you're just working on a project. I waited in my car for 3 hours. 3 hours. I had to pee so badly I contemplated using an empty Starbucks cup I found in my back seat. Finally, at 11:43 p.m., Elliott emerged, without the plastic-wrapped bundle. He disposed of evidence. I was sure of it. The next day I did something I'm not proud of. I accidentally bumped into him in the hallway, spilling my coffee on his jacket. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I exclaimed with exaggerated horror. "No worries," he said good-naturedly dabbing at the stain. "It's just coffee. Let me help you clean up," I insisted. "My apartment is right here." Once inside, I handed him paper towels and briefly excused myself to the bathroom. Instead of using the facilities, I snapped a quick photo of his driver's license, visible in the wallet he'd set on my counter. Minutes later, armed with his full name and date of birth, I went down the Reddit rabbit hole. I found his LinkedIn, product designer at some tech company, his rarely used Instagram, lots of hiking photos and food pics, and absolutely nothing incriminating. My investigation stalled until 3 days later, when I heard a woman screaming from Elliott's apartment. I froze in the middle of making dinner, a half-chopped onion forgotten on my cutting board. The screaming continued, punctuated by crashes and thumps. This was it. He was killing someone right above me. I grabbed my phone to call 911, then hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if it was just a movie or a video game? Then I heard a man's voice shouting, "You can't escape me." I dialed 911 so fast I nearly dropped my phone. 911, what's your emergency? I think my upstairs neighbor is murdering someone, I whispered urgently. I can hear a woman screaming and things breaking. He's shouting threatening things. The dispatcher took my information calmly and assured me officers were on the way. Stay in your apartment, ma'am. Do not attempt to intervene. For once I followed instructions. 5 minutes later, I heard heavy footsteps in the hallway and then pounding on a door. Police radios crackled. I crept to my door and peered through the peephole. 2 police officers stood outside Elliott's apartment. The door opened, and there was Elliott, looking confused. And behind him a woman, very much alive, wearing what appeared to be a VR headset pushed up on her forehead. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught phrases like virtual reality game and zombie apocalypse scenario. The woman, who I later learned was his sister visiting from Seattle, looked embarrassed as she explained. The officers left. No arrests. No body bags. Just me, hiding behind my door, marinating in mortification. An hour later, a knock on my door made me jump. I opened it to find Elliott standing there, arms crossed. The police said you called them, he said without preamble. I thought, I stammered. You thought I was murdering my sister because we were playing Zombie Outbreak VR? Put that way, it sounded ridiculous. I heard screaming, I said weakly. Elliott stared at me for a long moment. This isn't the first weird thing you've done, is it? You've been watching me. Following me. Busted. My face burned. I can explain. Please do, he said, looking more bewildered than angry. So I did. I told him about my true crime obsession, the leaking package, the midnight treadmill, the plastic-wrapped bundle. As I spoke, his expression morphed from confusion to something like amused disbelief. Let me get this straight, he said when I finished. You think I'm a serial killer because I get game meat deliveries, exercise late, and transported my woodworking project to the maker space? Well, when you put it like that, I muttered. The plastic-wrapped body was a custom coffee table I'm making for my sister's birthday, he explained. I was taking it to the maker space to use their industrial sanders. I wanted to melt through the floor. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. Elliott shook his head, and to my surprise laughed. You know what the really funny part is? What? I asked, prepared for him to tell me he was calling management to have me evicted. I had the exact same thoughts about you. I blinked. Excuse me. You're always asking suspicious questions. You followed me to the makerspace. You spilled coffee on me, just to get me into your apartment. He counted off on his fingers. Then I noticed you have all these true crime books, and a weird collection of news articles pinned to your bulletin board that's visible from the hallway. I had forgotten about my inspiration board for the true crime novel I was attempting to write. I actually told my sister I thought you might be the serial killer, he admitted. We stared at each other for a moment, then both burst out laughing. We're both idiots, I said. Speak for yourself. My suspicions were totally reasonable, he replied with a grin. And that's how Elliott and I ended up having dinner together that night, swapping stories about all the evidence we'd each collected about the other. His sister joined us, still making fun of both of us for our mutual paranoia. 2 months later, Elliott and I were officially dating. Our shared interest in crime, me from podcasts, him from his mystery novel collection, gave us plenty to talk about. He even helped me outlining my true crime novel, contributing ideas that were disturbingly plausible for supposed murder methods. You know way too much about how to dissolve a body, I told him one night as we cuddled on my couch, brainstorming plot points. Just basic chemistry, he said, kissing the top of my head. Anyone could Google it. Still suspicious, I teased. Life was good. I had a cute boyfriend, a nice apartment, and my social media management career was taking off. I'd even cut back on my true crime consumption, finding real life much more satisfying. Then the first body was discovered. I was scrolling through local news on my lunch break when the headline caught my eye. Woman's remains found in Forest Park, police suspect foul play. My blood ran cold as I read the details. The victim had been buried in a shallow grave, wrapped in plastic sheeting. She had been missing for approximately 6 months, well before I moved to Portland. I told myself it was a coincidence. Plastic sheeting was common. It didn't mean anything. 2 weeks later, another body was found in the same area. Same MO. The news started using the term serial killer. They called him the woodsman because of where he buried his victims. I couldn't help myself. I started collecting newspaper articles again, pinning them to my inspiration board, telling myself it was research for my novel. But a nagging doubt had planted itself in my brain. Elliott had access to plastic sheeting. Elliott frequented Forest Park for hiking, according to his Instagram. Elliott knew chemistry and how to dissolve a body. No, I was being ridiculous again. My boyfriend was not a serial killer. He was sweet and kind and made amazing sourdough bread. But the seed of doubt had been planted. I started noticing little things. How Elliott was vague about his whereabouts certain evenings. How he sometimes came home late smelling like he'd been outdoors. How he kept a locked toolbox in his apartment that I'd never seen opened. One night, while he was in the shower at my place, his phone buzzed with a text message. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't have looked. The message preview read, "New target acquired. Details at drop site 3. My heart nearly stopped. I quickly put the phone down before he could catch me snooping. That night I barely slept. In the morning, I made an excuse about work and asked Elliott if we could take a rain check on our hiking plans. He seemed disappointed but understood. As soon as he left, I called Maya in a panic. "Slow down," she said after I'd breathlessly explained my fears. "Let's think about this logically. Have you actually seen him do anything incriminating?" The text message, I insisted, which could be about literally anything. Maybe he plays paintball. Maybe it's from a mobile game notification. I hadn't considered that. But the bodies were found while you were dating him, which means you're his alibi for at least some of that time, Maya pointed out. Look, if you're really worried, why don't you just ask him about the text? I can't admit I looked at his phone. Then you need to either trust him or break up with him. But don't go accusing your boyfriend of being a serial killer without actual evidence. She was right, of course. I needed proof, either to confirm my fears or put them to rest forever. That evening, I texted Elliott that I wasn't feeling well and needed a night alone. Then I parked down the street from our apartment building and waited. At 9:37 p.m., his distinctive blue Subaru pulled out of the parking lot. I followed at a safe distance, heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. He drove to an industrial area similar to the one where the makerspace was located, but turned down a different street. He parked outside a nondescript warehouse with no signage. Using the flashlight on my phone, I crept around the building, looking for windows. Most were covered or too high to see through, but I finally found one with a crack in the paper covering it. Peering through, I saw Elliott inside, talking to a group of people gathered around a table. On the table was what looked like maps and weapons. My breath caught. I shifted position to get a better look, and that's when I stepped on a twig. The sharp crack seemed deafening in the quiet night. Inside, heads turned toward the window. I ducked down but not fast enough. The door to the warehouse burst open, and footsteps approached my hiding spot. I was about to become the next victim of the woodsman. I closed my eyes, clutching my phone, ready to dial 911 if I got the chance. "Zoe." Elliott's confused voice made me open my eyes. "What are you doing here?" Before I could answer, another man appeared behind him. He was wearing tactical-looking gear and holding, oh God, a gun. "Is there a problem?" the man asked, eyeing me suspiciously. "No, it's fine," Elliott said quickly. "She's with me. Sort of." The man nodded and retreated, leaving Elliott and me alone in the dark. Are you following me? Elliott asked, looking more confused than angry. Words tumbled out of me in a panicked rush. I saw the text on your phone about a target and drop site. And then you were being secretive and driving to abandoned warehouses, and there are bodies being found in Forest Park. And you know about dissolving corpses and… Whoa. Elliott held up his hands. You think I'm the woodsman? The serial killer from the news? I nodded miserably. To my surprise, Elliott burst out laughing. Oh my God, Zoe. Come with me. He led me into the warehouse, where a group of about 15 people in various forms of tactical gear were now staring at me curiously. Everyone, this is my girlfriend Zoe, Elliott announced. She thinks I'm a serial killer. A chorus of laughter erupted from the group. Zoe, this is my airsoft team. We're planning our strategy for the regional tournament next weekend. I looked around the room with new eyes. The weapons on the table were airsoft guns. The maps were of the competition field. And the mysterious text. The text about a target? I asked weakly. Elliott pulled out his phone and showed me the full message thread from someone named Commander Battalion. I roll. That read. New target acquired. Details at drop site 3. We're going after the blue team's flag first this year. I wanted to disappear. I am so sorry. The group thought this was hilarious. They spent the next hour telling me about their airsoft tournaments and strategies, clearly enjoying my embarrassment. On the drive home, Elliott was surprisingly understanding. I guess we're even now, he said. You thought I was a serial killer. I thought you were a serial killer. Maybe we're perfect for each other. I groaned. Can we please just be a normal couple now? No more suspicions. Deal, he agreed, reaching over to squeeze my hand. 2 days later, police arrested the woodsman. He was a long-haul trucker who had been passing through Portland periodically for years. He had no connection to Elliott or me or our apartment building. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be for two people who had mutually suspected each other of serial murder. Elliott moved in with me 6 months later, bringing his treadmill, his airsoft gear, and yes, his collection of pristine white t-shirts, which were indeed for his weekend restaurant job. We still joke about it sometimes. He'll wrap a gift in plastic sheeting just to see me jump, or I'll casually mention that the basement would be a perfect place to store bodies. Last week, he took me to Forest Park, the same area where the woodsman's victims had been found. I was a little nervous, but trusted him completely now. As we reached a beautiful viewpoint overlooking the city, he dropped to one knee and pulled out a small box. Zoe Parker, he said, despite the fact that you thought I was a serial killer, and I thought you were a serial killer, would you marry me? I said yes, of course, though I did check that the ring hadn't been, taken from a victim or anything. Old habits die hard. Oh, and that inspirational board of crime articles? It's now covered in wedding planning ideas. Turns out planning a murder and planning a wedding requires similar attention to detail. Just don't tell my fiancé I said that. He might get suspicious again. The end.